Okay, warm greetings also from me from the Fulbright Finland Foundation, and also from me, welcome to the Fulbright Finland or Fulbright Specialist Program Q&A session for inspiring hosts. So the Fulbright Finland Foundation is an independent, private, not-for-profit foundation, and it supports the internationalization of education and research in Finland, and also helps Finnish and US institutions to create linkages. The foundation provides advising, training, and information services for students, researchers, and working professionals. And we offer altogether over 50 grant programs for research lecturing, partnership building, as well as for professional development. And these grants are offered for all disciplines and professional fields. And while we are here to talk about how your institution could benefit from the Fulbright Specialist Program, we also encourage you to explore the other grant programs that you or your colleague could take advantage of. For instance, the application period will soon open for the Fulbright Finland travel grants for research collaboration, as well as for institutional partnership building for university academic and administrative staff in Finnish institutions. And these programs have no citizenship requirement or Finnish citizenship requirement. And as many of you already know, the Fulbright grantees are cultural ambassadors and future change makers whose projects have a potential for a large impact, while also building bridges between US and Finland. And this also applies to all of our Fulbright specialists.
Thank you, Heidi. So the Fulbright Specialist Program is part of the global Fulbright program that provides opportunities for diverse institutions around the world to host highly experienced American academic or professionals to exchange knowledge, build host institution capacity, and promote long-lasting international collaboration. It's administered in Finland by the Fulbright Finland Foundation and by the World Learning Organization in the US. So it's a completely field-driven initiative in which host institutions design a short-term 2 to 6 week project that addresses a specific need or a priority at their respective organization. So there's a lot of flexibility in designing projects as long as they have some kind of education or training focus and concrete objectives that can be achieved over the course of the specialist's short visit. And while there are 9 priority areas listed for the current application round on our Fulbright Specialist Program website, there are over 20 eligible disciplines within the program. And the Fulbright Specialist Program is a cost share program. The World Learning Organization arranges and administers specialists' return flights from US to Finland, a travel allowance, and a daily honorarium of $2,000 for each day of the program. And they also provide a small health benefit for the duration of the program. Host institutions, on the other hand, are responsible for arranging and paying for housing, in-country transportation, airport pickups and drop-offs, as well as meals. And the meals actually means that the hosts have to arrange or budget for 3 meals a day, weekends included. And at the minimum, the budgeted allowance for meals per day should be approximately the Finnish government per diem rate, which is 45 euros in 2022. And the Finnish institutions have the opportunity to submit an application for a specialist who's already included in the Fulbright Specialist Program roster that the World Learning Organization manages, or they can submit an open application and have the World Learning match a specialist with the right expertise for the proposed project. And US scholars or professionals who wish to serve as Fulbright specialists, they need to submit their application to World Learning Organization that coordinates the peer review process for the interested experts. And you can learn more about the process from the World Learning Organization website. And if the host institution wants to invite an expert who's not yet in the roster, the expert should submit application for the roster by January 11th. And peer review panels evaluate applications to join the Fulbright Specialist Program approximately every 8 weeks. So if you submit an application for a specialist not yet included in the roster, we encourage you to make a note about the date when the expert submitted their application for the roster, or when they find out about the acceptance for the roster. And if applicable, we also recommend noting that your institution will consider other Fulbright specialists with relevant expertise in the event that the expert requested is not approved for the roster. The projects with named specialists who are already in the specialist roster can be scheduled to start at the earliest in mid-August 2023, and projects without named specialists should be scheduled to start at the earliest in November 2023 to ensure sufficient time to recruit a qualified and available candidate for the project. And the projects need to be completed no later than September 30th, 2024. And the deadline for Finnish institutions to apply for the program is January 27th, 2023. So I'll be answering questions about the application process and program administration during the Q&A session. So without further ado, I'll introduce the true experts of the Fulbright Specialist Program. So the photo here features Fulbright specialist John Donnellan, who made some friends in high places during his stay in Finland. But our first speaker today will be Marila Kortesalmi, senior lecturer from the Laurea University of Applied Sciences, and she coordinated a Fulbright specialist project with this fall with Peter Popkowski, associate professor from the University of Kansas. The mic is yours.
Thank you, Mirka, and thank you for the opportunity to share my experiences and Laurea's experiences. Are you able to see the screen adequately? Yes, okay. So this August, we had the privilege to host Peter Popkowski from Kansas University, and it wasn't easy to get that phase because our original plan was targeted on 2020, and because of COVID it was postponed 2 years, and some other issues came up, but everything went out really fine, even better than we planned in beforehand. I will start the presentation of explaining that what we achieved during those 2 weeks, and then I will explain my understanding how did we get there, because it turns out that 2 weeks period is extremely short when you think about the relatively long and laborious processes like teaching and educating and researching and writing and studying and stuff, the normal stuff what we do in academia. So during those 2 weeks and after that, what we have done with Peter, 2 courses up on the route of planning today. They will happen on spring and summer next year. One is targeted on hybrid threats, and other one is crisis communication and misdisinformation, which is an area of expertise of Peter's. Information literacy is what he is really a specialist on, and what we really enjoyed him being here. Also, we already submitted a conference abstract, extended abstract to the conference held in Toronto next May. You can see it at the topic there. So I think that it was a really opportunity to work with such a specialist with a relatively short time, and yet achieve a lot. And another article is coming on that. And this all started during those 2 weeks that Peter was here. So originally, the guy who was coming to Finland was not Peter, but James. But then James left academia, and our situation in Laura a little bit changed. But thanks to Fulbright, Fulbright gave very good advices and was very encouraging that our original topic, what the visit was about to be, was so relevant and so current that would we be willing to expand the selection of specialists to someone else than originally who was in mind, and we said yes. And the selection of specialists that the World Learning Organization has was huge. There were so many good candidates. It was really hard to pick up what we thought was the best, because there were at least 2 or 3 that would have suited so well. Anyway, we ended up with Peter for various reasons. One of the main reasons being that information literacy was one of his key areas, and we are at the moment running an Finland Academia funded project called Irvin Information Resilience in a Wicked Environment. So it was a good match in many ways. We had to update our schedule. Originally, it was all the Metropolitan University of Applied Sciences, that is Metropolia, Haaga-Helia, and Laurea, but then it turned out to be just us, which is what I highly recommend to everybody, because more you can concentrate and more you can get familiar with one institution that is within 2 weeks or even longer period of time is good. So Peter was here from mid-August till end August, and if you recall that time, it was hot, especially surprisingly hot compared to normal Finnish late summer. So it was for us it was very nice. For him it was a bit surprising. So what we wanted to do, we wanted to welcome him in any way, not only to Laurea but also to Finland, and because I'm a citizen of city of Vantaa, also to Vantaa. So we gave all kind of information and tips what to do in Vantaa, but of course Helsinki was so close to everything. So, and Helsinki in the summertime is very nice. He selected an apartment with a sauna. That's an experience he liked. That's an experience I recommended it to him, because that's something that Finns do a lot. Also, we visited Tikkurilan Lukio, which is now the second biggest Lukio in Finland, and we had a very nice tour there. We participated something like 5 lectures during the tour. So I think that Peter got quite a nice idea what the Lukio education means in Finland. Also, we visited Ainola, where the picture is from, the home of Sibelius. And because Tuusulanjärvi area is quite nicely located there, we had a lunch in a Lotto Museo, and then a little glimpse of Alexis Kivi's hut. So many aspects of Finland was shown to him. Also, we had the typical Friday night dinner in a typical Finnish home, which was my home. I invited some colleagues and Peter, and we had typical Finnish dishes and desserts and coffee and licorice and Finnish cake and things like that. And it was very pleasant. It was really an evening to be remembered for. We also in Laurea, Peter participated in an intensive week in the end of August. That's a little bit challenging time period for universities because the students normally start in the beginning of September. We had a summer course that invited him. It was a nice experience. Also, he was invited, recorded interview for coming courses this fall. It took 1 day, and the interviewer was a colleague of mine, also participating to a Friday night dinner. So it was quite convenient. What we were probably most looking for was the next two topics: the research workshop about the information literacy. We were lucky to have a material data, interview data, hundreds of pages, but it was roughly categorized and translated into English. And we had an afternoon workshop, and it was a very fruitful workshop. And this cooperation has continued ever since. Also, we had a few planning meetings about what kind of opportunities we would have in a future cooperation. Last but not least, I have to mention that Fulbright welcoming was to Peter was very, very nice. It was very nice to see how in good hands all the Fulbright specialists were during those weeks. Everything was so meticulously taken care of. Every detail was checked, and every detail was confirmed, and the schedules were planned. And of course, we had that lovely evening on the Embassy of United States. The weather was lovely, and the company was lovely, and Mirka in the middle of the picture is smiling, and it was really an experience that I'm so happy to have shared with people. So it was rather busy 2 weeks, I have to say. I think for me, for Peter. Also, Peter took his own time during the weekends and evenings and visited much more places in Finland, and also visited Estonia during the weekend. So he really got a good idea what the Finland is about and what we do here. And for him, Finland was an interesting country because thinking about the information literacy. The mis and disinformation in United States and in Finland, they are in a totally different level, so to say. And especially Peter was interested that how is our educational system functioning so that the media literacy and information literacy is educated to the pupils and to the students, so that we end up with a high trust for our public officials. And that the Tikkurila Lukio visit was all about that. So I have only positive experiences. It was really good 2 weeks, and I'm so happy I had the privilege to live them. I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Marilla, for sharing the experiences with us. So now we'll save the questions for Marilla until the Q&A session, and we'll give the floor to Olli-Pekka Malinen, who's university lecturer at the University of Helsinki, Faculty of Educational Sciences. And he has served as the host at 2 Finnish host institutions for Fulbright specialist Dr. Marty Elford, university instructor from the Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. And we're honored to have Dr. Elford join us today as well. So Olli-Pekka, the mic is yours.
Yes, and let me see, I may not be sharing the right screen, or do you see my slides already? Yes. So I just put them then in presentation mode and you see them still. So as I said, I'm here. We are representing the 2 sides, so the host and then the person being hosted. So also hope that Martha will challenge me a bit And I prepared a few slides with a few sort of observations or my own personal experiences. Some of them overlap with what Marilla just shared. Some of them are slightly diverging from what Marilla says, but as I said, it's just what I've experienced being a Fulbright host. And my title of the presentations was to expect when you're expecting a Fulbright specialist to your institution. And here institution, I'm representing the University of Helsinki, but as I've understood, the host institution for Fulbright specialists can be something else also than a research university or University of Applied Sciences. So in a broad sense, institution. And it's the rough outline of what we are going to speak today. So first, why invite the Fulbright specialist to your institution? Then what to consider when making the specialist application, which is of course what Mirka is here to help you with. Then how to maximize the impact of a Fulbright specialist visit, and then some advice for the future host. But as I said, Marta is here to challenge me with those ideas, and I hope that to happen. So first, why to invite a Fulbright specialist? Of course, there can be many reasons. I've just listed a few possible ones. So, for example, you may have identified a US specialist who you would like to start to collaborate with, but need additional resources to make it happen. So there's a person, but you don't have any other means to bring that person to Finland to start to work with you. Or it can be need to further develop already existing collaboration with an American colleague. Or you may need specific expertise that is not available in Finland, or maybe you just need that American change agent to your institution, because it's sometimes better that someone outside your own organization tells people what they need to hear. And the need may be, let's say, developing a new course or a research project or a curriculum reform, or if it's not a higher education institution, there may be some other need that you need to fill. And of course, here, as Marilla mentioned, you may not have any specific expert in your mind, but in this case, we already had Marty in our mind, and the need was that we want to introduce this video feedback and reflection to our teacher education practicum, and that happens to be something that Marty has been worked on many years, and is very experienced in. So that was our need that we invited Marty to fill and advise. Then what to consider? This time, and also the previous time I was hosting a specialist, I was the main person writing the instructions. So of course the first thing is to read the instructions, what you should include in the plan, and also I would guess that the Fulbright organization and the persons evaluating the application appreciate a realistic project plan. So something that can be actually achieved within the somewhat limited time that the specialists spend in Finland. Then I found it helpful to inform Fulbright Finland about the application so that they know it is coming, so they can also guide you through the process during the application. So not just submitting at the very last day, just before the deadline when you cannot actually make any changes anymore. Then I would at least raise this idea of, could you share the hosting with other Finnish institutions? So the previous time we were hosting Marty in Finland, we had the University of Helsinki, University of Jyväskylä, and then Niilomäki Institute, a foundation-based organization sharing the hosting. And I see also some benefits there, so that you may share some of the costs that the host institution needs to provide, and then also for the specialists to see two different kinds of organizations within one visit. But I don't know if Marty has something
Well, absolutely. Being hosted in 2018 by two institutions gave me a broader experience, because I was able to view things through the Niilo Mäki Institute lens first, and see how those different guides and the curriculum supports were made available to institutions all over Finland. And then I got to participate with the University of Jyväskylä and meet the different program directors, as well as participate in some of the introductions that other students from different countries. I just got to tag along to see what it would be like to come to university from a different country. And so I just got more exposure and made more contacts by having two institutions host me.
Yeah, and actually this time as well, we originally planned to have two institutions doing the hosting, but the other one, they sort of withdraw at the quite last minute. They had some like institutional things that they couldn't solve or decide just before the application deadline, but that might have made Marty's visit this time a bit different as well. But then I think another thing that you have to consider is to get approval from an institution for covering the specialist accommodation, meals and transportation in Finland. Even though we are not talking about extremely large amounts of money, it's usually that the Finnish institutions, there's a certain budget, and whatever it's outside the regular budget has to be negotiated. At least that's my own experience. So just to have that clearance before you submit, because we know that well, it's sometimes harder if you introduce this at a week before the specialist is actually arriving to Finland. And then make sure that this is what Mirka already mentioned, make sure that your desires expert is included in the Fulbright specialist roster, or then maybe let other people to identify you a suitable expert from the roster. Then about maximizing the impact. So I think that one thing would be to try to accomplish something concrete, even how small, through the visit. And then another advice would be to advise at least a few full days from your calendar to intensively collaborate with your specialists. For example, in the university, we have now a teaching season going on, so people's calendars are often filled with meetings and lectures and everything. So it may not be easy to organize the time with your specialists, but at least we are now tomorrow and day after tomorrow planning to spend 2 full days with Marty designing this video feedback video reflection assignment that we are supposed to design. Then I would at least think it's helpful to communicate with the specialist about your hopes and expectations, both during and before the visit, so that the specialist also knows that what kind of need he or she is supposed to fill in your institution. Of course, the specialist has also his or her own expectations. Also, it's also important to ask that what the specialist would like to do and experience during the visit. But I don't know. Do you have anything to?
Well, I feel like in both cases, it seems like I feel like I benefit more than what I bring to the project. I know the last time I was here, a couple of concrete things that I was able to do. I taught a couple of classes. We made some instructional videos. I actually got to sit in on a grant proposal, and that was a serendipitous thing. The grant wasn't funded, but it was certainly fun to collaborate with those researchers and explore ways that we could possibly have partnered together. This time, Olli-Pekka was most interested in us creating a project where video-based observations might be used in their teacher preparation program. And so I think that me being here, I have some expertise in this area, but I've already learned so much about how it would need to be adapted if it's going to be implemented here in Finland, and also some things that I can take back with me that will benefit our program at SIUE. So I knew what to expect coming in, but I got more than I anticipated. I got to go to FinSeed and made some great contacts there, and then have just had some people invite me for coffee, and we've had some great academic conversations. So my expectations are exceeded.
Yeah, so I think that brings to the second last point, that at least what I've tried to do. The Marty's visit this time was confirmed rather late. I think a few weeks before you actually arrived.
Yeah.
So there wasn't that much time to prepare, but through the autumn, I've been kind of warning that this person may arrive. So at least my colleagues have some expectations, or they have an idea that the person may show up, so that when Marty actually shows up, they have some kind of recollection that this was mentioned in some of the meetings. Because also, even though I may be very invested in this hosting and having Marty here, it may be that having Marty here, my colleagues, for them, it's not what's in the top of their mind. They may have a lecture to teach or something, but at least you got some invitations for coffee, and some people have wanted to talk with you more.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that doesn't necessarily have to be something spectacular. It's just that people to people contacts, and that happens when you let them know that this person is here for a couple of weeks. And then as a final point, I was quite impressed what Marilla explained about going to different kinds of sites and visits. But I've also find quite useful this, like, bringing your expert to this day-to-day activities. Like, you have a meeting with your faculty members, just bring the expert there and let him like hear what we are talking in our these regular meetings, and so that's how, like, observe what Finnish higher education looks like from insiders' perspective. And then also make use of the opportunities that exist. Marty mentioned this FinSeed forum, which was an event about education and the work that Finland is doing to sort of solve the global learning crisis. And that just happened to happen during the same time. And me personally wouldn't be able to organize that kind of program and introduce all those people. But by bringing Marty to the event, which was free of charge, you were able to make those contacts.
Yeah, that was really fabulous.
Yes, and then this is the last slide I prepared. So advice for future hosts. So this may not come as a surprise after all the COVID experience we've had, but be flexible and ready to adjust your original plan. So as I mentioned, the original plan was Marty to come a bit earlier, but then things changed and you came a bit later. So then we had to adjust that your schedule here, and also the pilot that we are developing, to postpone it a little bit and run it in a different context than we originally were planning to do. Then I put in the quotation marks or this: do not overhost your specialist. So in this I refer to that it's sometimes that Marty also is an experienced person who can take care of herself. So for example, it was quite comforting for me to hear that I don't necessarily have to be there walking her from railway station to the accommodation, that you said that you can find your own way. And I was quite like comfortable of letting you to do that walking on your own. And I think that applies to many Fulbright specialists, that they are experienced, reasonable persons who can take care of themselves in many respects. Then another thing would be not to over-program the visit, because my experience, the specialists may sometimes have to do work also to the United States while being in Finland. And with the time difference and everything, if you have an 8-hour program here in Finland, and then the specialists have to work another 8-hour day to a different time zone during the visit, it can be a bit exhausting. So do not pack the program too full of all sorts of activities, but you may disagree or.
Well, for me, I want to experience as much as I possibly can while I'm here. And when we were planning originally, I organized my academic schedule and my class schedule in the hopes that I would get to come, and even my teaching calendar. Well, it got a bit rearranged, but I've only actually had to teach 2 of my classes synchronously since I've been here, but I couldn't have done that every evening for sure. And so Olli-Pekka has given me just the right amount of activities and just the right amount of things to consider when we're thinking about our project, so that I could fully experience being a specialist here and still take care of my responsibilities at the university at home.
Yeah, but of course, sometimes the specialists may have a privilege to entirely forget the work in the US, but that especially now we are in the middle of the academic year, it may not be possible. And then one way. Here the two last point is to, as I said, to ask your specialist about the wishes and plans for the visit. For example, the travel plans outside the official program, whether you want to visit Estonia or Lapland or whatever place. At least to be aware of those plans, so that you don't book program to that day that the specialist has planned to be, and is too polite to refuse your invitation. And then this thinking creatively to engage your colleagues with the specialists. So not all of your colleagues may not be like equally invested, but find some ways, like easy threshold ways for them to be engaged with the specialist. And that's basically what I prepared. And yeah. Do you have something to add?
Well, and with the beauty of video and Zoom and all of that, I've been able to meet with several of the Olli-Pekka's colleagues, not necessarily face to face, but on Zoom, and I have felt welcomed. I've been challenged in a positive way, and just really encouraged to think about the differences in the educational systems and some of the obstacles that we both have to face when we're thinking about implementing something new. So I highly recommend this specialist program. I'm sure there are other places that would be wonderful to visit, but I can't imagine that there would be any place better than Finland.
Okay, so maybe we leave it there, and I let Mirka to continue.
Thank you so much, Olli-Pekka and Marty. And as you've all heard, we have a lot of hosting and program expertise in the Zoom, and now it's time for questions. So feel free to just unmute yourselves and ask your questions, since there are so few of us. We really want to keep this event as informal as possible. And you can also ask your questions in Finnish or English, and we can translate those.
Well, I guess I'll ask a question, since, somebody's got to ask the first question, even though it's slightly embarrassing. So hi, my name is Sofia Hageleni-Albov. I'm a former Fulbrighter to Finland from the US, and I work on a project that is co-produced between Aalto University and University of Helsinki. And I apologize, my question is perhaps a little bit on the nose, but I wanted to ask to our current and former hosts. Obviously, I can see, the costs that the host institutions are responsible for, but I wanted to see in your experience, how much did this actually kind of work out to practically?
No, maybe if I begin, at least in our faculty, it's like basically whenever you are talking about money that hasn't been budgeted before, you have to be accepted by the department head or the dean of the faculty. So how it worked out for me is that when I had a rough estimate of how much this cost that we had to cover is, I contacted our dean and then got a clearance from our dean that she will find the money from somewhere. And of course we haven't yet paid. I'm trusting it that it will be said so, but I think it was like getting the clearance from the quite high in our organization that was the way forward for us, but it may be different in other institutions.
No,
Yeah,
actually,
that's sorry, I'm not trying to totally interrupt, but before we go on, like, I guess my question isn't so much about the process that you went to find the money. I'm, like I said, I hope this isn't too on the nose. I'm asking, what did you find that it worked out to? Like, how much? I mean, obviously in every situation, it's going to be a little bit different because of different accommodations and that kind of thing. But like, are we, for the week where you talk, or for the 2 weeks where you're talking like 5,000 euros or 10,000 euros or?
Maybe if we are talking about like money, then for example, University of Helsinki, we have this Tölentorvit accommodation where we have a negotiated price, but it depends on the time, but it can be maybe from 50 to 100 euros a night, including breakfast. You have to ask from there then exactly. And then you have the transportation in Marty's situation, because you are staying in Helsinki region the whole time. That's not a big deal. And then the meals, as Mirka says, is maybe the amount that the Finnish tax officials are recommending or organizing it another way. But in Marty's case, it's roughly 2,000 euros that has been budgeted for hosting for 3 weeks, but that may differ. The apartment accommodation prices fluctuate all the time, so it's hard to tell exactly.
for
And maybe-
Peter, we chose the apartment hotel in Jokiniemi. It is very close to Tikkurila and much more convenient than the Tikkurila hotels are at the moment. But of course, Helsinki is not that far away anyway. So I think the accommodation was something like 1,300, and then comes this daily allowance fee. So roughly 2,000 euros was the total amount of costs. And as a procedure, a little bit similar or much similar that what Olli-Pekka described. Only I would like to mention that it wasn't that easy to transfer the money for United States banks, because they are out of SWIFT systems and what's the other one BIC systems, at least his bank was. So it took time. It took a longer time than I understood beforehand to make the actual transfer of the money, but it all worked out finally, eventually.
I thought that I could add just from some of the projects selected. Now that of course the project proposals are submitted with dollar amounts. So from the selected projects for next year, some of the 2-week projects, the in-country cost for the host institutions can range for 2-week project about 1,760. I believe that was the lowest. And then one of the 6-week projects, the total in-country costs ended up being $4,699. So then everything, because the project can range from 2 to 6 weeks. So like for the upcoming year, the in-country costs are something in between of those sums.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the insight. I really appreciate that because, of course, we all know that kind of getting your head around like, okay, how much have people actually been spending on this is quite helpful to being able to start the conversation if this is something that is pursuable.
Also, I can recommend this scan the Airbnbs because there are quite nice options also. They and convenient, and they are just like apartments or apartment hotels actually. So that's an option too. We were figuring that out with Peter.
Any other questions? Now that we have specialist hosts and our Fulbright Finland Foundation team, so.
Hi, here is Mira from Oulu, from University of Applied Sciences here. I would have one question to Marilla and Olli-Pekka. What did you get from the visit? Maybe three most important things.
Most important things is of course it was about networking. And networking on the area that our university wasn't, there were a gap of specialty that Peter has. And I have to say that when it comes to mis and disinformation, media literacy and information literacy, United States is far away from what Finland is. They have strategy, they have educational curriculums, they have educational material, they have all things, these kind of things sorted out when we in Finland and in European Union are just starting to understand that media literacy is and information literacy are very needed citizenship skills. So that understanding is very valuable. But in a practical level, that lecturing afternoons, recorded interviews, and participancy on research program is exactly what we got. But I really want to emphasize that what the professional expertise Peter brought, because as happens so typically, we weren't aware of that Finland is so behind when it comes to media literacy and media literacy in education.
Yeah, maybe if I continue. So I already described that we have this practice that we haven't been doing in our teacher education programs, but Marty has been doing, so bringing that expertise. I think it's also bringing kind of an external change agent to your organization, because it's many times that of course we can read the publication and then the information is basically there, but is that someone more experienced telling that I've succeeded in doing this and I had the same fears that you are experiencing, and it isn't easy, but it isn't impossible either. And it's something that I can try to convince my colleagues, but it doesn't always, it isn't usually as effective as having someone else to do the job. And then of course this, if we are thinking this utilitarian perspective, but then what I gain is generally I just enjoy being with and working with nice people, and also thinking, reflecting my own experience as a Fulbright scholar in the United States. It's very hard to package everything that you gained in a few sentences or as an elevator speech. It's just that the persons you meet, the things you experience, and then all that stuff that is hard to describe in short.
If I can interject, it's this idea of iron sharpening iron, you know, working alongside people who are interested in similar things and have maybe not the same ideas, but ask questions that spark academic and practical thinking, that elevate the the conversation to the next level. And having those opportunities in a non-threatening environment is really, really beneficial.
I think another element, the Fulbright Specialist program can also be used as an easy way to kickstart or feel potential for longer term collaboration with a US institution. Since it's just 2 to 6 weeks, but you can see if there are opportunities for collaborate in teaching classes and having online courses together with students, or having case studies together with students, or maybe it'll lead to some further staff exchanges or student exchanges. So Fulbright Specialist program really, even though it's a short program, it can be the start of something bigger.
Thank you for the answers.
Any other questions? You've had really good ones.
How about you, Mirka? Do you have any any questions?
We have maybe time. Your final tips for the applicants when they go about starting their project proposals.
I think that because going through 2 rounds, the first application round that was accepted, and then postpone it, and then revising the application. So that was really useful to us to think about what exactly is the main thing, what we are asking for this specialist and the specialist program and the 2 weeks period. So once we figured that out, it was much easier to engage the other faculty members, and also, so to say, to sell the cost that comes from the visit upwards. So I think that figuring out what is the beef in the visit is really important.
Yes, no, maybe my last tip would be like take the specialist as a whole person. So even I would think talking that the specialist comes to maybe feel a need, but I think the specialists, at least in Marty's case, they have so much else to offer as well. So also try to think that what else can the specialist offer to your organization or your colleagues, or let's say your family. And so on. So maybe that's that you are not bringing specialists, you're actually bringing people here, and you should consider them as such.
And as Marty's presence here shows, our Fulbrighters become part of the Fulbright Finland family. So it's really hard to get rid of us, and we always love welcoming alumni from Finland and the US back to our events and activities. So on that note, I would warmly like to thank all of you, thank our experts and our audience for your active participation today. And feel free to type in the chat if you have a takeaway that you gained from this session. And please don't hesitate to get in touch with us if you have any follow-up questions. So we're going to stop the recording now, but at least Heidi and I will be on the line for a little while if there are any additional questions.